swift, silent, and deadly. First Marines. Ooh, look out. Swift, silent, and deadly. Marine Corps Recon. Oh boy. Yeah. Quite the group of boys. Some of them let it go right in their heads. And then, the officers didn't like me because I started as an enlistment, so I was a maverick. I worked my way up. That's what they considered. See, and I started.
You're like a chief warrant officer then.
Well,
and the Coast Guard, a chief warrant officer is like you go up through E-10 and you go into a warrant status.
Right.
Warrant officer, you've done your enlisted, you came in as enlisted, you worked your way up. And
I went from E-5 to, lieutenant. E-5, lieutenant, college, after
Oh, yeah.
So,
Do they call you a 90-day lieutenant?
90-day wonder boy. Yeah, because you didn't have the academy behind you. So the real officers in the Marine Corps all went to Annapolis. They were all snooty and stuffy and so I gave them all that shit back. They didn't like me at all. I mean, because I didn't holler at my men a whole lot. Like they liked to. I'd go, fellas, listen up. This is what we got to do. Here's the list. What do you think? Give me some input. Because if I was taking 5 or 6 men into harm's way, I wanted to hear what they had to say.
Right.
Because a lot of times what they had to say made a lot of sense. So it just kind of like blended in the plan, and because they didn't really give us specific details on how to accomplish the mission that they were saying. You know what I mean? The mission would be to go to that tree, and it didn't matter how you got to that tree and did the mission. It was like, it was up to you to make that.
Figure it out.
That's right. But then on the flip side of that, we had availability of just about anything that the military had to offer. If I asked for something, we got it. Little, armored Humvees, fucking little four-wheelers, helicopters, it didn't matter. I mean, if I told them that's what we needed for the mission to complete, then we got it without any arguments. So, we spent a lot of time on little four-wheelers, camouflage four-wheelers, just because they were fast and they could get you somewhere.
Right.
The Humvees were great, but they were limited in the mobility of where you could get with them because they're so big,
Turn
heavy,
radius,
cumbersome, and up in the hills. Goddamn.
Yeah.
And then they took V-plow on a tank and they'd make these roads up the side of the hill, and of course there was a berm where the V-plow would push the dirt over, so it was a great little place to be on your four-wheeler to get around and look down at, because they'd go around the side of the mountains with it.
Right.
Make us little access roads that way. But, you'd still get peppered and shot at while you're up there on the berm, So.
Right. So I guess the tanks have a little.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like an excavator, and they just lower it down. They can.
Well, it's like a big V-plow, pretty much. And once you get that dug into something and that tank pushing behind it, it's like a D9 Caterpillar. So
yeah.
It'll push some shit now. So,
Well, that's how they would dig their berms, like the Russians. I guess that's how they dug their berms in. They just kept plowing it out.
For tank warfare, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They settle them down and
Gotcha.
hunker the turrets up out of sight. And,
Gotcha. Okay. I was wondering how they made those big berms like that.
Yeah, and then of course they had the roller things on the front of the tanks to go in front of them for IEDs and shit that was in the ground or mines and whatnot. So. And the IEDs all detonated by somebody that was looking. So, if you caught somebody standing around with their cell phone just watching you,
Right.
it's like, target 2 o'clock, take it out. You just, sorry if he was calling mom. Sorry. You shouldn't have been standing there with a cell phone when I was trying to drive by because it looked suspicious to me and I didn't play. So it was like, I called in more airstrikes in war zones than any other person that had the right to call in an airstrike. If I thought, what's that, babe? All right, coming. If it looked like there was a sniper in that clump of trees, I'd call an airstrike. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was easier than losing one of my guys and writing letters home to mom.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.